Hi everyone, delonewolf here and welcome to part 3 of this week's EVE Talk, where I'm going to take a look at pretty much some other goods that I generally take a look at after we've analyzed the mineral market and the ship markets, where the general trend for minerals after a serious rise through November has been that they're all trying to maintain those, so we're not really seeing any of them crater back down, although for like the entire summer most of them have been going down. After that, in the ships, we've seen that the Tech 1 stuff has really been following the mineral trend throughout November. In general, most of them have gone up together with the minerals. A lot of them are correcting, and then the rock, though, that one was really looked like there was a lot of demand for rocks all of a sudden for some reason. The Tech 2 ships, I've explained a little bit more that I like these for trading reasons. So I'm just quickly recapping stuff for people that don't want to watch the previous parts, so that might just help them a little bit. But yeah, the Tech 2 ships, they're mostly there for trading. And what's more interesting when I look at these charts and include the supply and demand data, that I might be able to tell when a new spike is forming or when a bottom is being reached, just looking at the sell and buy orders. So for instance, if we look here at the Astarte chart being at a very low point, the reason for this is of course that there is a lot of supply still coming here, whereas demand has dried up quite a little bit. You're only seeing recent orders of a single ship at 238 million, whereas we still have some pretty big supply that needs to be used up here at 246 million, 17 units of them. That's pretty much the entire volume for the entire day. And it's only really when you see this start to go away that you can expect a new spike for the Astarte or for one of these Tech 2 ships. But the trends in these Tech 2 ships are pretty important still, because you can see all of these spikes, and these represent awesome trade opportunities where on a single trade for one ship you could potentially make 20, 30 or even 40 million ISK. But I do think that the in-depth analysis could help to try and locate the correct time to buy and to start selling your ships. On the Tech 3 market, what we've seen here is that these are going down extremely hard, and that the reason for this is that there is a lot of oversupply. We're seeing a lot of big sell orders coming to the market, even at low prices below 150 million, whereas the demand side, it is there, but they're much smaller in volume. 1, 2, 3 up to 4 ships being bought at one time. You really have to go to extremely low, ridiculously low prices before you see the big buy orders come in. So the reason that the Tech 3s are really going down is that there's just way more supply than there is demand for these ships. Anyways, for this video we are also going to look at some of the other stuff. And for instance, one are the fuels, and fuels are constantly being used up in EVE Online. They're used by bosses, and what we can see here, for instance, on the Amar fuel blocks, is a reasonably sideways movement, a reasonably stable price for fuel blocks in at least the last few months since the summer. The volumes, I would say on average maybe 1.5 million for Amar. Then let's have a look at Caldari. Although it's a little bit higher than the Amar fuel blocks, it's also pretty much a sideways movement. Galente fuel blocks, again, since the summer, since here August 1st, you can see a sideways movement, volume also around 1.5 million. And then Minmatar here again, pretty much sideways with one strange spike. So the interesting part then is to look at supply and demand, and whoa, that's actually pretty interesting. Right here on the Minmatar fuel block side, I'm not seeing a lot of demand, so it's really supply that is dictating the price and the market, and there is plenty of it, but it's all settling at around that 13.6k, which is yeah, just a little bit lower, and indeed the price is going lower. Of course, once supply continues to outpace it, demand might just increase, and then this will stabilize the price a little bit. But to me it looks here like the Minmatar market might just be going down a little bit, but we do see here that it's especially supply that is dictating the price because there's just so much of it, and most people actually buy their Minmatar fuel blocks or their fuel blocks right out of the market because they will need them. They will actually need them to keep their process running. So yeah, supply can actually dictate in a pretty serious way how the price is being formed, and that is why we're seeing it. So I would say that this is actually a very stable supply. There's a lot of competition in supply, and there is no reason to expect the price to all of a sudden start go up or all of a sudden to drastically go down, because even though we're not seeing a lot of buy orders in this market, people tend to buy their fuel blocks right away to bring to their POS in decent amounts. So here again you can see a lot of supply at the 14,000 mark, and there's even a little bit of competition here, decent amounts coming in. Although 300,000 number, it's not that much. Well, actually it's a decent amount, so this might just be trending down a little bit as well because of more supply coming back. On the Caldari side, I am seeing more demand, and this is why the Caldari fuel blocks have settled a little bit higher than the other ones, whereas the Amar one, less supply. It's still a little bit more, but it's less. And less demand, excuse me, and supply is pretty high, plenty to supply the market. So what's pretty interesting is that this is not looking at this part of the analysis of the fuel blocks. Amar, Galente and Minmatar have settled around the 14,000 mark. There is plenty of supply in the market, so there is no reason to expect any really big changes, because it's also supply that is dictating most of the price. People tend to just buy their fuel blocks and bring them out. And the Caldari ones have settled at a higher price point because there is more demand, and I suspect that this is because most people tend to play Caldari, and thus that there are probably more Caldari POSes out there, and thus there is a little bit more demand for Caldari fuel, and they've settled at a higher price. But we can still see in the Caldari markets that there is plenty of supply below the 17,000 ISK mark. Look at that, 444, 444 again. All of this is supply for days and weeks in Caldari fuel box, so there is no real reason to suspect that the price is going to go up even on the supply demand side of things. One ship I did not check is the Marauders. Unfortunately, these are so expensive that it's going to be very hard to really gauge the supplies demand side part of it. One interesting thing is the numbers though. Ever since Rubicon, the volume has definitely gone up, and so has the price. So that would indicate that there has been more demand and thus a higher price for these ships. But I have to say that at the moment it looks like there is more supply coming in, you know, 4 here, 10 here, Kronos 4, 6, 4 here again, Paladin, 8 Paladins being sold by a single order, whereas the Varger, not surprisingly enough, so I would expect the Varger might still be going up. Yep, the Varger is actually still going up because supply has not caught up with the new demand just yet. But oh, and the Paladin as well. Is that by order ridiculously low? Nope, 1.3. Yeah, it's actually at 1.3. That is very very high. So this will probably settle down. The Paladin will probably settle down because of the increased supply at 1.3 billion. The Varger is probably going to go up because there is just not that much supply of Vargers. There's more demand than supply at the moment. The Kronos at just 1 billion. There is plenty of supply, so that one is probably correcting and moving sideways. Yep, and then the Golem. There is plenty of supply coming online at 1.1 billion, so that will also start moving sideways at this point, which you can also see that the 5-day moving average has corrected right here. So this is a lot harder to tell because the numbers are much lower in volume, but you can see that in general volume has gone up, prices have gone up, and that this is due to an increase in demand for these ships, and that's on those where supply has been slow to respond, such as the Varger right here. Prices are still going up in these ships, so if you have the means to bring Varger to the market, that would be a very good opportunity. The Paladin you're probably a little bit late, because I can see competition starting at the 1.3, then 1.28, etc. So here supply has already come online, so this will probably stop its ascension and start moving down as supply is going to start to outstrip. But the opportunity is definitely here in the Varger, if you can still bring them to the market, because right here the supply is barely covering the demand, and that is going to be very interesting, I think, to see how high that price could go. I think there's still an opportunity here, although 1.2 billion, that's gone as well. So it might just be that the demand, well, look at that, 322, yeah, demand, it's still there, you know. So it's going to be an interesting next few days, I think, for the Varger. Next up, we'll have a look at R64 stuff. Let's see, not a lot of supply. Look at that, limited amount of sell orders, although they're decent in numbers. If you take a look at the volume, probably 0.6, 0.7 million being sold in a day. Yeah, that's actually pretty decent. So at 59,000, yeah, that's still up. That's still up quite a little bit. Here is the supply side, which is way lower than demand, and so we can actually expect this price to continue to go up, surprisingly enough. Let's have a look at neodymium. There's actually much more supply of neodymium. There's actually starting to be some competition here, and demand, well, it's decent, but I feel that this is a bit more in sync. So yeah, this is actually starting to move sideways. And then for promethium, definitely going up, so I do expect here, well, this is actually starting to come online here. The supply side is definitely going up, a few recent orders of decent magnitude, whereas the buy orders are definitely starting to dwindle. So this will probably correct. I think this is at the end of its uptrend right here for promethium, because supply seems to be coming back to the market. And then thulium, let's have a look at that. 20k, pretty balanced as far as I can tell on the top parts, but not that much. So yeah, sideways. Ooh, that one has gone up quite a little bit. And is there more supply coming at 31? Oh man, oh my god, really? The supply side is at 31,000 ISK. The price is still at around 28,000 ISK. Buyer is at 26,000. Is there really competition for that here? 10,000, yeah, 49,000 right here, very recent. 30,000, very recent. At the 26,000 price mark though, so I don't really think that this is going to continue to go up for too much, because there is actually some, no, well, there's not that much supply, although these are pretty recent. This is an unusual situation where I think that that you can see some form of cartel that's actively manipulating the price, and that there is a lot more understanding on the supplier part, where they are trying to dictate the price in a very strong way, by bringing supply very close to the price that they want. And then you can see that there are big buy orders, but it's a pretty large gap at 26,000, then 24,000, 23,000. Yeah, so it's actually, that one is going up. That one is going up. It looks like the buyers are no longer willing to wait and are slowly starting to pony up more and more money, whereas despite the fact that some supply is pretty recent, it's at very high prices, and they're really forcing the buyers to pay more for their thulium at the moment. And so although it looks to me like it's a little bit pushed, you know, because there is demand, but there is also supply, there is a decent amount of supply. Prices are going up quite significantly, just because supply is being brought in at very, very high prices. And this is probably due to the fact that it's a big 0-0 alliances that collaborate to keep this price very high. And I do think that at some point, if this market would open up, or if there would be some real competition, that this could go back down significantly. Anyways, that was it for the R64, and then we'll end up with the Plex, of course, which is a very interesting one. Buy orders 593, sell orders 602. The sideways movement is definitely there, so we would expect supply and demand to be pretty much in sync. There's actually a little bit more demand here. As you can see, big order of 50 plexes pretty damn recently, 176 plexes at 592, 593, so that's probably pushing the price upward, whereas supply is only coming online at 605 million ISK. So any supply coming up below that is quickly being snatched up, and buy orders really have to fight themselves above these 593 big order in order to actually find a seller that's willing to part with their Plex in one go for them to buy. So they'll have to go above 593. So this puts the floor around here, and then the top around, yeah, well, it's going to go down then a little bit probably. It might just break below 600 million if the market would trend normally. Unfortunately, that's probably not going to happen because of the Plex for Good race. On top of that, Kriba received an offer by a player who would match up to 1 trillion ISK in donations. So that means that there could be 2 trillion ISK in demand for Plexes coming to the market. That might just really push the buy orders a lot higher than they are at the moment. In fact, this 50 buy order could be a part of that already. So yeah, there's bound to be more demand coming because of the Plex for Good race, where the players are really being very ambitious, trying to gather 1 trillion ISK in donations to Kriba, and then there's another player that is actually going to match that, doubling the amount, bringing as much as 50,000 ISK into the pot if they succeed. On a personal note, our corporation, Co Incorporate, is going to donate all the ISK we make in the next week to Kriba to help with this. We are going to do that, but I do expect that this will still have an impact on the demand side for Plex, that it will actually go up in the next few days, just because of the Plex for Good and the fact that, well, there is less supply than demand at the moment, and demand is set to go even higher than what it is now. Anyways, interestingly enough, we are starting to see sellers at close to 600 million, so it could be that if it wasn't for Plex for Good, that the price would finally start to slowly settle below the 600 million mark, which would of course be good, as it would indicate the start of the downtrend. It's just that I would not count on this to actually start before next week, just because of the whole Plex for Good that is happening at the moment. That's probably going to really push the price up by quite a bit. Anyways, that's it for Eve Talk. It's actually a 3-parter this time. If you stuck through all of it, thank you very much. Let me know what you think of this. You can be completely honest, you know, if you really think that the 30-minute videos to check everything out is better, then that's I can actually fully understand that. For me, for doing it, it's a little bit either way. I don't really mind doing more videos and going more in depth, or just trying to cover the entire thing in 30 minutes. Another option would also be for me to start live streaming it. So if more of you guys do like the in-depth analysis of also supply, demand, volume, stuff like that, where I try to also give an indication of where the market might be heading and why, let me know that as well. If most of you like that, I'll continue either in several videos or in a live stream that could then last a little bit longer and save me a lot of time, because now I do have a lot of editing and exporting and stuff like that to do. But thank you very much for watching. Let me know what you think, and I'll see you all next time.